Hey guys, wanted to talk with a little bit of a winter weather, cold weather survival camping tip for you guys. Today in New York, it turned out Northern New York was the coldest place in the continental USA today. So it kind of made me think, and I wanted to make a quick video with just a little bit of a tip about cold weather and survival and camping and all that. So I've been winter camping for about 25 years. I've only missed maybe 2 or 3 seasons in that time. I go, usually a couple times a year, every year. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do, and I've done it, from days that were 35 and raining to days that were negative 20 and high winds to days that were, sunny and beautiful. Winter can be anything, and it can be very difficult to prepare for and very difficult to be comfortable. But with a little bit of learning and a little bit of experience, you can actually be a very enjoyable time if you just follow some very, very simple principles. Now, first of all, I'm just going to really quick go through, the book says wicking layer, insulating layer, windproof, waterproof outer layer. It's kind of universally accepted. It works. Yeah, there's room to play with that and you can experiment, but generally that combination always works. So what I want to talk to, and my tip for today, is how to properly protect your body. Now, even if you do everything right, you buy all the right materials, you buy gore-tex, you buy wool, you buy all these good expensive things, you layer them properly, you can still end up being very, very cold on a winter trip. And there's a reason for this. It's because your body doesn't generate a ton of heat. Your body, we're not furnaces, we're not meant to generate all this heat. When you do get out and in the extreme colds, when you're getting down below zero, negative 10, negative 20, it only takes the slightest bit of exposure to strip away your body heat. And it can happen very quickly and it can be very dangerous. I mean, I've had hypothermia and it's very scary. It's very, very scary. So it's really important to do things right when you're doing these trips and making sure that you're safe. So one of the big mistakes I see is that people go out, okay, they buy a really nice Under Armour wicking layer, they go out, they buy a $80 wool sweater, and then they go and buy a really awesome Gore-Tex jacket. They jump into their tent at night, they put on their really awesome sleep clothes, half an hour later, you hear their teeth chattering. Why is it? Because number one, they've not shingled. And I've talked about this in videos before. Shingling is the idea that you basically create interwoven layers with your clothing. So instead of just throwing on, boom, 1, 2, 3 pairs of gloves and having an open seam, you're going to layer them. You're going to put down a shirt, put a glove over it, put down another shirt, put another glove over that, creating a layer that is shingled, very much like a shingled roof. And that's very, very helpful. And that needs to be done not just with your hands. That needs to be done with your ankles, it needs to be done with your belt line, it needs to be done with your neckline and your wrists. Anywhere that you leave an exposed seam is going to seep away your heat and seep it away very, very quickly. So I want to talk about protecting today, in particular your head and protecting your hands. Feet are easy because you're always going to be wearing some kind of long johns, and it's not rocket science. You just pair of socks, long johns, pair of socks, insulating layer, pair of socks. You're golden. You really can't screw it up. Hands and feet are a little different because, let's face it, some people have trouble sleeping with their face covered, and some people have trouble sleeping with gloves on as well. So I want to go over just some real simple technique and some products that might help you out when it comes to protecting yourself at night. Now, I highly recommend these heat sleeves by Mechanics. They're like 12 bucks. They are really good when it comes to winter weather. These ones are like Kevlar too, so they are heat. I use them a lot when I'm working on cars and stuff, but also I always keep a couple pairs of these things around for winter trips because they're fantastic. As you can see, they're kind of a long sleeve, and they got the little thumb cut out. So what this does is if you put this on as your first layer and then put your shirt on over that, you're creating basically a layer that's not going to move. Now what happens is, okay, you can shingle to the best of them, but as you roll around during your night, your sleeves might get pulled up, your gloves might start to fall off, and you create an opening. That opening lets air in, you get chilly. Something like this is permanently in place. Once you put it on, it's not going anywhere. So we'll put this on just to show you real quick. You know, it goes all the way up, it goes all the way almost to my elbow, but you can see this isn't coming down. It's not coming down, it's tight. There is going to be no opening in that shingle. So using something like this, a sleeve with the thumb cut out, will eliminate any issues that you may have during the night of your sleeves popping out or your gloves coming out untucked. Because that's what happens, guys. Let's be honest here. You can shingle, you can use the best clothing on earth, but as the night goes on, you know, you roll around, you twist around, things start to whoop and pop out, and then you got a cold spot. That cold spot will strip away your heat in no time. So using something like this is awesome. It will really work. You know, you put a couple layers on top of this and then a couple layers of gloves, and you will not, no matter how much you roll around during the night, you are not going to open that seam. You know, because you physically cannot pull this back off, and your glove would literally have to come almost completely off to expose any skin. So during the night, this is a very safe way to sleep. You know, especially if you have troubled hands, you can wear a lighter glove, and that won't give you any problems with the seam opening up. So I think it's a very good investment for the like $12 you pay for these. And there's different brands out there, not just these ones, but a good sleeve like this style, tight against the skin, thumb cut out, they're not going anywhere, and it will help protect your hands. And then what if you have to go to the bathroom during the night, you have to take that glove off? This will also protect your hands a little bit from that cold, so I think that's a big bonus as well. Now here's the other thing, is your head. I often see people do the same exact thing with their head. They go, they put all their awesome gear on, they bought and spent a fortune, and then they just go and they got their nice gore-tex lined hat, and they just slap that on. And then the night goes on, their face gets cold, they bury their face into their sleeping bag, and they wake up in the morning with a wet sleeping bag. All that moisture from their breath condensed, went into the sleeping bag, boom, they're freezing cold. Or the same thing happens. They open up their jacket and put their face in their jacket. They wake up with a wet jacket. You know, it's a huge mistake not to cover and protect your face. And those shingling techniques need to be done for your head as well. You can't ignore it. If you leave your face exposed, you know, and not so much when it's 35, 40 degrees out, but when it gets down 0 degrees and below, any exposed skin is going to get cold in a matter of minutes, if not sooner. So spending $60 on a hat isn't going to protect you in any way, shape, or form. So what I do, and once again, very simple equipment, doesn't have to be anything fancy. A great combination is, number one, is to have a good, like, quarter zip sweater, you know, a fleece or a quarter zip, something that has a zipper that goes all the way up to your neck, that actually closes up tightly and cinches onto your neck. That's very, very helpful, number one, because it creates, just like this mechanic sleeve, it creates something tight that's not going to fold or slip, you know, and you see that a lot. Guys go in and they're wearing like a nice heavy sweater, but the collar, you know, every time they move around, that collar pops open a little bit and lets air in. So I think it's very important to make sure that, you know, if you have a wicking layer, your insulating layer, I think, should be something that zips up onto your neck, like a quarter zip fleece. Very, very important. And your outer layer, if you're wearing one as well, should be something that zips up high onto your neck. Or, you know, maybe a turtleneck. I don't know if that's what you want to do. But then you're going to integrate a neck gaiter, which is just a very simple tube, over that seam or into that seam, so that you can basically have your, you know, your layer, throw your neck gaiter on, throw another layer on, and then I'll do one of these face masks. They only leave a little tiny exposed area of your eyes. Throw that over on the neck gaiter, and now you've created a seam on your head and neck. And this, I like this one because it's kind of light. I don't like sleeping with stuff over my face. This is kind of light and it's very breathable because it's a thin a thin fleece, so it, you can kind of breathe through it. It doesn't make you feel like you're choking all night long, and it protects your face, protects your head, your neck's protected. No cold air whatsoever is getting down because you have, a layer, a gaiter, a layer, and this. So it's very well protected of an area. And then if you get cold during the night, you can pop your hat on over, or maybe even under. I've worn hats under these face masks as well. They actually work pretty well. And then it also keeps your hat from sliding off during the night, because I know that happens a lot. You go in with a hat like this, halfway through the night, the hat slid off your head, you're freezing. So sometimes putting the face mask on over is very beneficial. So it's the same principle, guys. You don't need expensive. Neck gaiter, probably $6. Face mask is probably $6. This is a cheap thin slit hat. This is more than enough to keep me warm in extreme, extreme temperatures. With all this, guys, you're talking, $10 mechanic sleeves. You're talking, $6 military liner glove and like a $15 pair of hunting gloves. You can stay very, very warm with very, very minimal, as long as you mechanically put everything together correctly. You have to eliminate seams. You have to eliminate any area where cold air can get to you. You do that, and you're going to stay a lot warmer. And that's where we fail, is we just follow that advice. We say, okay, I got my 3 layers, I'm good. But you can't. You can't leave exposed skin. And if you leave that exposed skin, like I said before, you're going to end up breathing into your sleeping bag, breathing into your clothing. One of the worst things you can do is lift up your shirt and cover your mouth with your shirt. You're going to breathe all that moisture in. It's going to get you damp, and in the cold, that dampness isn't going away, and it's just going to get worse and worse. Something like this. If I put this over my mouth, this is all that's going to get damp, is this little neck gaiter. That's it. And the moisture isn't going to spread. It's going to be contained. It's not going to be in my sleeping bag. It's not going to be in my tent. It's not going to be in my shelter. It'll be contained to this little thing right here. And being you're constantly breathing on it, it shouldn't get too cold for you. I've done some really, really cold. Never had an issue with a gaiter, just being cool to the touch. Whereas I've filled sleeping bags with moisture from breathing in them and had them get very chilly very quickly. So I think it's really important. That is very, very important to make sure that you're doing that. And if you don't want to do that, you can use a bandana. A bandana sometimes is more comfortable. It's cotton, so, if you get it too wet, you should burn it in the fireplace or whatever. So very simple, guys, very easy. It's not always the materials, it's how you apply them. And like I said, do this to your feet, do it to your hands, do it to your belt line, and do it to your head. That's the most important part of your body to keep warm, and you will have a good night. You don't need to go crazy. I see a lot of people do the winter trips, and they end up bringing I got a negative 20-degree bag, and I got a down jacket, and I got this, and I got that, and they've got 75 pounds of gear, and they're still not staying warm. It's not the amount of gear. It's not that. It's doing it correctly, making sure you're conserving every little bit of heat. And it takes practice, it takes time, it takes experience, but it's very easy to learn. You don't need the money. And I tell you what, guys, when I go out in the woods, one of the things people can't believe is how good I sleep at night. People are always surprised, how do you do it? How do you stay warm? And it's very simple. It's because I'm applying good technique. I'm putting on the clothing properly. I'm eliminating cold spots, and I'm having ample insulation to keep me warm. I know I know what my body generates for heat just from experience. I know how thick of insulation I need. So all I have to do is protect myself from the wind, moisture, and the cold, and I know what I can do, and I know exactly what kind of a sleeping bag I can manage. I've very successfully slept with 2 wool blankets at -10 with, just normal clothing. Why? Because I've gotten a system. I've learned how to do this, how to integrate all these things, how to use a wool blanket to its most, and you do that, and you can have really good positive experiences in the winter where you can be very well rested, have a very good night's sleep, and be very comfortable with what you're doing.